Europe is moving closer to its goal of keeping its COVID-19 infection rate at a level its healthcare systems can manage. Italy has been at the front line of the continent's coronavirus battle. It has the highest number of deaths worldwide, but its month-long nationwide lockdown seems to finally be turning the tide.
Today we've recorded 525 new deaths, the lowest number in more than 2 weeks. We've a decrease in the number of hospitalized patients and patients in intensive care.
Daily death tolls have also dropped in France and Spain, the country with the second highest number of infections in the world at over 135,000. Only the US has more. Several governments are planning to relax their shutdowns, among them Austria, which will gradually start reopening businesses next week. The drop in infections boosted European stocks on Monday. They have lost more than $3 trillion in market value since February on fears of a global recession. There continues to be plenty of bad news. Despite fiscal and monetary stimulus, analysts predict the Eurozone's GDP will fall by nearly 40% in the second quarter. And purchasing managers' indexes, an indicator of economic health, slumped to record lows last month.
Markets are torn. On the one hand, there is the terrible economic data, and on the other hand, an indication that infection numbers are going down. Even though this will still take a while, there is at least a glimmer of hope.
In the UK, however, there's no sign of optimism. The jump in virus deaths has outpaced the daily toll in Italy. And in a rare televised appearance, the Queen appealed to Britons to stay at home to contain its spread.
Together we are tackling this disease. And I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it.
Millions of people in the UK and Europe have lost their jobs, as many non-essential businesses, including restaurants and shops, remain closed. Eurozone finance ministers will meet on Tuesday to try to find ways to restart the economy, with options ranging from using bailout funds to short-time working schemes. Whichever ideas get the backing from ministers, Europeans hope it will help the world's largest trading bloc overcome an invisible enemy. Sibel Karkus, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, Ekkehard Ernst joins us now from Geneva. He's chief macroeconomist at the International Labour Organization. He previously worked at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the European Central Bank. Welcome to Money Talks, Ekkehard. Now, we're seeing some very positive signs emerging from some key hotspots across Europe, including Italy, France, and Spain. Is this evidence that perhaps these really tough lockdown measures that were imposed on their economies are working?
I think indeed it is a glimmer of hope that we are currently moving out of this crisis slowly. Obviously, we have to see that whatever measures we take now will only have an effect in 2 weeks. That's why the UK, for instance, has so much difficulties now to contain its numbers. But slowly the numbers are coming down and the increase is not anymore as steep as it used to be.
Now, governments across Europe have begun preparations to ease their lockdowns, which to many might seem a little premature given that these lockdowns really were only implemented in the last few weeks themselves. I mean, do you believe it's too early to see these easing of these restrictions, even though their economies have been really hard hit?
I think it's important to give a clear communication of an exit strategy, give hope to people that these measures are temporary in nature. We are not talking about getting out of these measures immediately and fully before, let's say, end of April or even early May in some countries. So yes, I would say that's important to communicate an exit strategy, but also be clear that these measures will need to be lifted only very gradually.
Now, I think no country has escaped unscathed in terms of the economic damage from this outbreak. We're seeing literally thousands and perhaps millions by the end of it, jobs disappearing. Now, do you believe that when this crisis ends, will we see these jobs return?
Well, first of all, it's very important to keep the web of ties, of economic ties between businesses and workers intact. And that means that the crisis has to be tackled as swiftly as possible and allowing businesses and workers to resume as quickly as possible. The longer this lasts, the more protected will be the recovery, and the longer it will take to get back all these jobs that we are losing now.
Now, we know various governments across Europe as well have announced stimulus packages in order to help shield their economies from the economic impact of this outbreak. In your view, is there any country that has done this better than others?
Well, I think there's not only any particular country. There's a particular set of measures that are important. One of the measures is a short-term work arrangement or work schemes that are important. So keeping people in a job, even though they're not actually working, and getting support measures from the government, support income through social security, etc. I think that's one of the key elements to help workers to remain active. The other thing is keeping businesses alive, allowing them to easily access loan guarantees from states and from their banks is very important to keep them afloat and allow them to kind of overcome this 2 or 3 months that they will be out of activity.
So do you believe that when this crisis does end, will Europe's economy return back to normal?
To the extent that the support measures will remain in place, yes, I think that's really important. That the crisis measures, the health measures, even if they're removed, the economic stimulus need to be put in place, need to remain in place for foreseeable future.
Okay, Ekkehard Ernst from the ILO. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you again for joining us on Money Talks.